Hey guys, it's November and finally cool enough to start cranking up my oven and making some sourdough again. I have a confession to make. I have completely neglected my sourdough starter since March. I am really embarrassed to show you what this stuff looks like. So I have 3 starters. This is Jason Madoa. I have Bread Cooper here. He's looking pretty scary. And the one to start it all is Bread Pitt. These poor guys have been ignored for at least 8 months. We're gonna see if we can't get them back in action. Okay, so let's take a look inside and see what is happening inside these jars. So this one is Jason Madoa. And it doesn't look too bad actually. There's not a lot of what they call hooch on top. Hooch is the liquid that can form, but there's no mold. It smells pretty good actually. It smells like it did last March. And let's see, the next up is Bread Cooper. Oh my goodness, the lid is kind of, oh geez, stuck. Oh boy. Wow. Okay, let me find something to pry this with. Oh, there we go. Okay, wow, there's a lot of, I just took a whiff of it here. It smelled a little vinegary, but not bad. They say that this layer helps protect it from molding over. This is the OG of my sourdough. This is where it all started. This is Bread Pitt. And it's actually not looking too bad either. It's got a layer of hooch on it, but nothing too crazy going on there. So I'm mixing up some flour that I'm going to feed the starter. I'm going to feed it a mixture of half bread flour and half rye flour. I have found that using rye flour really gets my starter going. So I think that after it's not been fed for so long, giving it a little rye would probably help a lot. Okay, so the first starter I want to try to revive is my old standby Jason Madoa. There's not a whole lot in here, so I'm going to measure first how much I have. All right, so let's say 41. I'll give it 40 grams of water. Okay, a little over, but that's okay. I like to kind of mix it in the water stage to make the flour mix in better. All right, so about 46 grams then of the flour I need to add. Okay, good. Just mix that up. I'm going to go ahead and scrape down the sides pretty well so that we can keep track of the growth. It'll be easier to see if I have a nice level line. And I'll put a band right at the level of the starter. And just so that we can keep track of everybody, this was Jason Madoa. Okay, next up is Bradley Cooper. I'm going to go ahead and pour this hooch off the top. Be right back. I noticed that Jason had kind of a gray layer, and I think that's because the hooch hadn't separated into a nice layer like this one. The color seems pretty consistent throughout, actually. It doesn't look a whole lot different deep down, where the Jason Madoa had kind of a gray layer. It's not mold, it was just kind of discolored. I think that the hooch just didn't separate as well as this one did, but this actually looks like a pretty decent starter. I think we'll try to keep it consistent and use the same amount each time, so I'm going to try to go for about, I think the last one was 41. Whoops. Okay, well, 43, close enough. And I like to use filtered water because I think that will help take care of some of the chemicals that can retard the growth of any kind of bacteria or anything in your water or your starter. Keeps telling me low. Gosh, I just changed that battery not long ago. Okay, and another 40. I think 44 was what it said. Again, you know, we're not baking bread with this yet. We're just trying to get the starter revived. So I'm not going to be too worried about the measurements right now. I just want to get this alive again, I hope. But I really wanted to start baking bread, and I thought, well, why don't I go ahead and make a video and see how this comes out, because I bet I'm not the only one out there that has kind of let their starter sit neglected for, I don't know if anybody's actually gone as many months as I have, but I am curious to see if this works, because that would be pretty exciting. All right, let's put a lid on. I'll mark the level. All right, this is Bradley Cooper. I'll set him back here. Okie dokie. And finally, the OG, Bread Pitt. He's got a little bit of hooch there. I think I'm going to stir this hooch in. There's not a lot, and we'll see what kind of difference that makes, if any. So, oh boy, there's a very thin layer of starter in here, like itty bitty. Gosh, I don't know if I'm going to get 40 grams of this or not. Huh. Okay, well, we'll see what I can muster. This is going to take some scraping out, I think. Oh gosh, I should have started with this one. I didn't realize there was so little in it. All right. Ooh, it's pretty watery too. Let me get a better angle here. I don't remember. Oh, geez. My battery's shot on this. All right, well. And I've got a... I don't know if I remember mentioning... Yeah, look, low. Golly. The smell is not bad. I mean, they smell kind of like starter. The Bradley Cooper one with all the hooch kind of smelled a little acetone, but that's normal for starter. This is going to be fun trying to figure out how much is in here now that my battery didn't work. Well, I'm not holding out much hope for this, honestly, the way it looked compared to the others, and there isn't a whole lot there. So let me see if I can get this coming back on at all. All right, well, Geez, not much in here. I'm gonna guess. That's it. Oh, look at battery again. Yeah, it's been a while since I baked, guys, as you can see, huh? This one might just not come out, but why not give it a try? All right. So flour, of course, isn't as dense as the water, and, well, how much is in there? About 1/8 of a cup, so I'm going to go for about 1/4 of a cup. You need about twice as much flour as you have water to be the same weight, so I'm going to just try to get the same consistency as I had for the other two, and we'll go from there. That looks pretty much the same. Well, it's a little thicker. I'll add just a tad bit more water. Jeez. Professional here, right? You know this has a special battery, so there's no, me stopping in the middle to change the battery is not gonna fly. Because I don't have an extra one. Oh, there, now it's working. Ah! Somebody remind me why I thought I could do YouTube videos. I don't know. Okay, well, there he is. This is Bread Pitt. I think I will get a shot of the three of them lined up, and if I can figure out how to do a time lapse, maybe I'll try that. Although I don't know, my technology's not really working too great tonight. So, all right, I can't wait to see what it looks like in the morning. It is 6:30. I will be getting up early. Tomorrow I have an appointment, so hopefully after 12 hours we'll see some growth on these guys. That'd be pretty exciting. So see you in the morning. Well, good morning, everybody. I have to say that I am quite surprised at the results. It looks like Bread Pitt, the oldest starter that I had, is actually doing pretty darn well. It has more than doubled in size. Let's see if I can get it. Look at that. Look at the bubbles in there. Wow, looks really good. The other two are not really doing much to this point. Not a lot of action happening for Bradley Cooper. Let's see, Jason Momoa. Same thing, not much happening here. It just goes to show, you know, I kind of threw this one together. Remember, the scale wasn't working. I kind of guessed how much flour and water to add, and it's really the one that's giving the best results so far. This starter here, actually, it probably could be fed, but I think I'm going to let it go a little more. It will be done, or at its maximum height, once it kind of domes and then starts to sink just a tiny bit. That's when it's time to feed again. So I think I'm going to just hold off and feed some more this afternoon. And I'm hoping that by that time, these two will start showing some kind of action. I'm happy to see, though, that the oldest starter that I had is doing the best. Okay, guys, so I'm back from my appointment, and it is about 11:30. Nothing much happening with Bradley or Jason. However, Bread Pitt has actually climbed up the side, so I'm going to feed it the 1:1 ratio, and I will set it next to the other two and see if this growth continues. Okay, guys, so it's about 6:30 p.m., about 24 hours since I tried to revive the sourdough. Bread Pitt is doing an amazing job of coming back to life. This one, in fact, rose and is starting to fall for a second time. There he goes, starting to fall as some of the bubbles are popping. I don't know if you can see that. So I fed this one again at 11:30 today. These guys are not doing much of anything. Jason's got a couple of bubbles started, but nothing really noteworthy. After 24 hours, I was expecting to see a little bit more than that. You see a couple tiny bubbles on top. And Breadly isn't doing much of anything at all. Okay, so the Bread Pitt starter is doing great. It is ready to bake with, honestly. It's super active. It's more than doubling in size in 4 to 5 hours. So I'm just going to continue to feed it the 50-50 blend of bread flour and rye flour at a 1:1:1 ratio. But the Jason and the Breadly starters are really not growing much yet. So I'm going to switch the flour to feed them to all rye flour. I'm going to do it at a ratio of 1 part starter to 5 parts flour, 5 parts water. So I'll start with about 10 grams of starter. That sound, sorry, is my dog Frida. She's eating and she plays with her food as she eats. She's like a cat. She takes one piece out at a time and flips it around on the floor and plays with it a little bit. And she's just a hoot. Hey, Freeds. What's even funnier is the way she eats. I don't know if you can see this, but all her little pieces of food on the floor, she literally picks out the pieces that she likes. Oh boy, that was lucky. 55 of the rye flour. Okay, just mix this up. And I won't bore you with me mixing the Breadly Cooper, but I'll do the same thing. I'll use all rye flour this time and do a 1 part starter to 5 parts water, 5 parts flour. Okay, so I wanted to show this to you guys. This is Bread Pitt, the one that is growing so well. You can see it's collapsing because it needs to be fed again. I just fed the other 2. But this I had to record because it's the best sound ever. If you're a sourdough baker, you'll love hearing this. See all those bubbles and hear all that sound? Look at that structure going on in there. This is gorgeous. Okay, so the guys have been fed and they're tucked in for the night. I will check in the morning. It is about 7 o'clock tonight, so I'll give them 12 hours and check in around 7 tomorrow morning. I will set up the time lapse so we can watch through the night and see what happens. Good morning. It's 7 o'clock and Bread Pitt has not let me down. He has grown overnight and I think it's time to put him in the fridge. Breadly Cooper hasn't done much of anything. I think Jason Madoa is actually starting to do a little something. So I'll give it another 12 hours to make 24 since the last feeding and see how Jason is doing, if he's growing much. If Breadly doesn't start to wake up, I have a plan to hopefully kick him into gear. Okay guys, it's 7 o'clock at night and it looks like Jason is doing the right thing. Definitely had some bubbling going on today. It looks like it rose and then sank, so he's pretty active. So I'm going to go ahead and feed him just the way I would any other starter that is good and strong, and I'll put him in the fridge. He's done exactly what I was hoping he would. This is really thrilling. But let's talk about Breadly here. Nothing is going on. No growth at all, not doing a darn thing. Okay, so here's the plan. I fed Breadly a mixture of the 50-50 bread flour and rye flour at a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio. I think the problem with Breadly is that he has a lot of bacteria. He had the thickest layer of hooch out of all three starters, and the hooch is a byproduct of bacteria growing. So the rise is from yeast. So I think that Breadly is just super low on yeast. So what I did, instead of giving him more of the rye flour, which has a high bacteria count, any whole grain flour, it has a lot of extra bacteria. So I am going to feed him bread flour, which has lower fiber and lower bacterial count and higher sugars. So I'm hoping that that's going to help feed the yeast that's in him. So fingers crossed, we will see some kind of action in him today. I was able to revive 2 of those starters, which just blew my mind, but we still have Breadly left, and for whatever reason, he is just still hanging around. Oh boy, guys, I have to tell you, I am so excited. It looks like Breadly Cooper has decided to join the party. This is 24 hours after the last feeding. I kind of just let him go and do his thing for the day. I am going to feed one more time. I'd like to see a little more action, but you can see that he has doubled in size, and technically that is an active starter. I cannot believe that I had 3 starters that haven't been touched in, 8 to 10 months, and they've all come back. If you're afraid to bake sourdough bread because you think that having a starter is difficult and that it is too time consuming, then once you get the initial starter good and strong, you can leave it. You can let it go. At least that's been my experience. So if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, please consider subscribing to my channel and leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.